Hi, everyone. Welcome to Spill the Tea Radio, where we interview awesome singers, songwriters, and those who influence their lives. Spill the Tea Radio explores the journey, creativity, and inspiration behind the songs. My next guest is a singer, songwriter, guitarist, and violinist, originally from Vancouver and now based in Toronto. Her finely crafted songs always have a hint of the fairy tale about them, and she delivers them with a warm alto that has a timbre all its own. She released her first album, The Lives of Saints and Sinners, in 2012, described by Penguin Eggs magazine as a sparkling debut. So let's spill the tea with Zoe Thiessen. Welcome, Zoe.
Thank you, David.
It's good to have you on the show. You've got a lot of stuff that you've done over your tender career, culminating into some music of your own, and these EPs and one of the songs we're going to debut today. So first of all, let's talk about the musical influences in your life.
Okay.
When we talk about mom, dad, brothers, sisters, grandma, grandpa, aunts, uncles, you do have an older brother that's also a singer-songwriter. Tell us about him and how he influenced your life.
I do. Yeah, Wyndham. He's 6 years older and he started writing songs like when he was a teenager. So I was, hearing these when I was like 10 or so. And I just thought it was like so cool. He wrote really quirky stuff. And I was like, wow, I never even thought at that time that, oh, maybe I'll do that one day. But they definitely planted the seeds.
You have had some experience in busking, and I always love to hear these busking stories. You busked in on Grenville Island in your
Yeah.
20s, mostly with the violin. We don't see a lot of busking with violins. Mostly it's guitars and things like that. So tell us about your experience on Grenville Island, which, by the way, if people have not been to BC and into the Vancouver area, you have to go to Grenville.
It's
That
true.
is it's an
Yeah.
absolutely spectacular spot. Lots of great places to eat and lots of entertainment there. So tell us about your experience busking in Grenville.
Sure. Yeah. It kind of happened spontaneously. Like my parents were away at the time. I didn't have a job at the time, and I was like, I'm just gonna try this out. And yeah, I brought my violin down. Well, you have to sign up first, obviously, but I was doing kind of a mix of fiddling and some of my classical training, and yeah, I mean, it was really fun, and people generally like really appreciated it. Uh, One of the highlights was when someone got me to go play for their colleague. So I actually left Granville Island and went up a couple blocks, and he had just come back. And because I'd been playing the theme from The Godfather, and they wanted me to
Yeah.
play this for him as he returned from being, I think he had surgery or something. So it was like playing the violin.
You've also had experience with open mics. The
Mhm.
successful musicians that I talk to have all done open mics, and I just did an interview with Rick Emmett from the band Triumph, who just wrote 10 new songs, and he says you have to woodshed them and you have to perform them in order
Yeah.
to refine them. So, what's your opinion of open mics? Like, what would you suggest to a young musician that's starting out and wanting to know, should I do it? Should I not do it? What's the benefits? What's the drawbacks?
I think absolutely. Yeah, that's the place where I think probably like 95% of musicians start out, right? Because that's where you build up your performing confidence. You just get exposure, like you can do it on a weekly basis and just hone like no matter how much you practice in your room, it's always going to be different when you're on the stage, right? Like the very first time I ever performed, I realized that I look at my fingers when I play guitar, and you can't do that when you're on the mic. Like, oh no, my voice is cutting out. There's always those little things you never imagine when you're performing. And it's also where you make connections. Like,
Hmm.
Most of the connections I made in Toronto when I came back from being overseas were through the open mics, and you get all levels. You get beginners, but you also get really experienced musicians going there.
You were overseas in Qatar for a few years. When you were in Qatar, did you continue to play music? Did you
Good.
did you go on gigs? Do they have open mics in Qatar? What's
They
the music scene
do.
like over there?
Yeah, no, good question. I was wondering when I went there, I had no idea really. Um, and when I Googled it, it seemed to be only jazz, but over time I did discover there was like this open mic that a lot of expats went to, and it was great. It was a great little scene, and I did work. My husband was the main breadwinner there, but I did work as a musician. I played uh, like hotels are really where people go and
Mhm.
perform, or there were some music festivals that people set up, and the open mic also because we were in the desert, right? And probably the most memorable open mic experience was like we'd set up, you drove like an hour out of the city, and we called it Brown Rocks, I think. And it was kind of by this little canyon, and it was just like, out in the middle of nowhere. And yeah, that's where we set up the stage, and it was amazing. We were like just open micing out in the desert.
Now you play in a number of different genres. You mentioned you played
Mhm.
jazz. Uh, Jazz is not the genre we're going to hear today,
Right.
but you
Mhm.
played in a French jazz trio, and you have an interesting story about a request that you got when you were playing in that jazz trio from a gig that you were doing. Tell us about that story.
Yeah, so it was a bit unusual to have formed this trio. I formed this trio actually when I initially thought that jazz was the scene they had there. So yeah, we were playing in basically like hotel bar. It was like a little smoky and stuff, and maybe not the traditional like genre you'd hear there. And one guy came up at one point after we'd been playing kind of a whole set, and he asked for a Bon Jovi request. And we are like, have you not been listening to our prior hour music? So that wasn't in our set list.
I don't think anyone would, well, obviously one person in the planet did put this together, but you would never think of Bon Jovi and a French jazz trio being
Right,
in the
right.
same space to,
Yeah, you could try it. It would be pretty quirky. I mean,
and so did you play it?
there's no known version of a French jazz version of Bon Jovi.
You are releasing a, new EP called Sneak Back In.
Yes.
Um, I'm always interested to find out how people name their bands, name their songs, name their
Hmm.
EPs. So you've got a collection of songs on this EP, and you decide to call the EP Sneak Back In. What's the backstory to that title?
Sure, yeah. So it is the title of the last track of the EP, but I think I selected that because it encapsulated a this idea of sneaking back into the Garden of Eden. That was kind of the theme I was going for. Like the EP is about it, I wrote it in a crisis time. About half the songs were in this crisis, about half like when I was coming out of it. And it's this idea of you've lost something, but now maybe you're reclaiming it.
You collaborated with one of our former guests on the show, Jessica Stewart,
Mhm.
and Jessica is a big part of the song that we are going to
Absolutely.
hear. Tell us how that collaboration came together. Like, how did you meet Jessica? How did you
Mhm.
how did you connect with her and then develop that relationship to a point where you say, yeah, I want to work with this person?
Yeah, well, we go way back actually. It's a musical relationship that started when we were in like the last half of elementary school. And we were best friends for a couple years in elementary school. And we wrote our first song together ever at Rabbit's Afternoon. And then I, after high school, I moved to Toronto. She moved to Toronto, and then I moved away. And then 2 years ago, I moved back to Toronto, and that's when we really reconnected, like as friends and also musically. Um, she's been playing with me, in my as like we kind of play as a duo. And then she has also been starting to produce music. And then so
Mhm.
that's when we talked about like, oh, I've got these songs I want to record, and she's got the inspiration and like know how to do it. So we set a time. She made it happen. She's really like the gears behind this project, I would say. And when you hear the song, like she is an amazing producer. She's got like beautiful ideas, and yeah, totally brought the song to life.
What does success look like for you? Like, how
Hmm.
would you know when you say, you know what, I'm successful? And artists
Hmm.
have said it all the way along. Said, well, listen, I just produced my very first song. For me, that's success. So success
Hmm.
comes in all different kinds of forms, and it means different things to different people. So
For
what would
sure.
success
Yeah.
mean? What would success look like for you?
I think I would just like to be like Canadian famous, just not super famous, not recognized everywhere, but like, have recognized, a respected name, someone who could be invited to festivals without it being too hard, right? I would just like to be on a nice, like, well-known festival stage. That would be success for me.
Let's get into one of the songs that Zoe wrote. This song was released in April of 2025 and is featured on Zoe's EP Sneak Back In. It features Ryan Granville Martin on drums and Jessica Stewart on guitar, who also produced the track. So let's take a listen to singer-songwriter Zoe Thiessen and her song In Between.
In between, all around is in between. As I look through a lens that needs a thorough clean, blurring shapes, blurring signs, and all of the edges in between. Isn't good, isn't bad, isn't dirty, isn't clean. It's a pale shade of tender side aquamarine, bleaching out colors bold, diluting them with something in between. I tend to wander, aimlessly wander, perched on the edge of in between. And beside on the couch, and we chuckled at the screen, while above and below this comforting routine was so much left unsaid that something started growing in between. And it grew through our days, even though they were serene, till it reached such a size we couldn't have foreseen. And we gazed at a shore just glittering beyond the in-between. I tend to wander, aimlessly wander, perched on the edge of in between. But this time is up, so I pray for love. Pray for all the courage I will need to embark on a quest of a kind we've never seen, scaling perilous cliffs and deepest ravines, till we cross every hill and all of the distance in between. And we come face to face, eye to eye we reconvene, and we know as we're known, just like we've always dreamed, and we're close as a breeze with nothing but a whisper in between.
That was In Between by Zoe Thiessen. Zoe, tell us, what is that song about and what was the inspiration to write it?
Okay, well, I wrote this song over a number of years. I started it when I was feeling in this place of being in between, relationally, situationally, and then this feeling of being neither here nor there. And then I put it aside because I actually didn't know where the song was going. It was itself in between. And then a few years later, when we'd moved back to Canada and things had kind of resolved, and then I finished it off, and I had this more inspiring ending of transcending this state into something more wonderful.
Zoe, how do people find out more about you and your music? What's the website? What are the socials and the streaming platforms?
Sure. My website is www.zoethiessen.com. That is THIESSEN. Or you can find me on Instagram at Zoe Thiessen, or Facebook at Zoe.Thiessen.
We have been in conversation with Zoe Thiessen. Zoe, thanks for being with us.
Thanks so much, David.
Isn't bad, isn't dirty, isn't clean.